Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the opener. This is episode 3, 2026 Rays season preview. I am Zach Broderson with my co-host Will Gellner, and as we're recording this, Nick Martinez has been getting absolutely shelled by the Blue Jays, and I'm wondering if we have the phone number for Andre Satoria. Will, how are you opening today?
I'm opening pretty excited, man. Like you said, it's our season preview, our last pod before opening day that happens later this week. So two things I want to open with. One, the Rays opening day record is a 15-13 record. So as of now, they are an over 500 team. They usually, more times than not, win the first game of the season. It's almost 50-50, but
good chance at 16. We're playing the Cardinals.
Right, we're playing the Cardinals. Yeah, we got Ras against old Rays face Mr. Matthew Liberatore. Yeah, thank you, Matthew, for being the sacrificial lamb for Randy Arozarena. But also wanted to open with another shout out. I know I shouted out Drew Rasmussen last time for the opening day nod. We're going to shout out Yandy Diaz. It's his 8th opening day with the Rays, which is crazy to say. He actually ties Carl Crawford and Kevin Kiermaier with the most opening day starts in franchise history, for second on the list. Let me just say that. Second most opening day starts in franchise history. He's one opening day start away from tying Evan Longoria. So pretty crazy to think that Yandy has been on the team so long now. And I remember when they got him for Jake Bauers, wasn't a big fan of it. And that's why I don't work for the Rays. Because, yeah.
I mean, all this guy does is hit. I really hope we're in it this year so we can get a full season of him, because will be on the trade block in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. I want another year at least of Yandy Diaz. Like, this guy, I can't envision this team without him.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, his demeanor in the clubhouse, on the field, in the batting lineup. Yeah, it would be crazy to not see Yandy Diaz. And like you said, you have to hope that the Rays have a good year, because he's probably the first name out if somehow the season falls apart.
Him or even McClanahan. That's a guy, big upside guy that could be on the move. Any of the pitchers, really. Yeah. Any of the pitchers.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So I'll tell you a quick story. I went to two games actually at Wrigley last year, and we stayed after one of the games to get some autographs as the guys were going to the bus, and they won the game, so we're like, okay, they might be in a good mood. And we waited for almost the entire roster. Only 2 guys stopped to sign. 2 guys.
Wow.
Jake Mangum, the Cowboy himself, and Yandy Diaz. Those were the 2.
Wow.
Only ones that came and showed some love.
He's a guy for the fans, man. I think it was yesterday when I was watching the spring training game. He signed a ball for a kid, and he gave the kid his bat, and he just walked away like it was nothing.
Yeah,
and Yandy,
he's part of a Rays clubhouse that to me, one positive, regardless of the record, I feel like we have a lot of good dudes on this team, and that at least that's worth something, maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, here we are. 2026 season preview. This is a big episode for us, and thank you for tuning in. We have got games that start counting in 4 days as of recording this, and as far as our slate today, we're going to start with the full season preview. The roster's been trimmed down. We're going to take a look at who's left, what's the lineup looking like, what's the rotation looking like. We now know the order of the rotation, and the guy who just gave up 100 runs to the Blue Jays is second in order. So if I told you the sentence, Nick Martinez is the Rays' second starter, something to chew on there. Now, obviously, they're not. I'm spoiling the later section, but they're not necessarily in the order of who's the best pitcher. But that is an interesting one to chew on there. We'll get to the bullpen. That has become pretty clear as well. And so we'll go through all that. We'll do some over-unders, talk about projections, try to get a lot into the front of this episode. And at the end, we'll need to take care of our State of the Rays, kind of our recurring segment here. And there's a lot more to go through there as well, with some stadium news and some sponsorship news. So this is going to be a fun episode, and here is where we're going to start. I want to circle back to something that we talked about in episode 1, which is the PECOTA win projections. I think this is the best way to set the table. In the AL East, okay, your Tampa Bay Rays are now projected for 82 wins. They were projected for 81 and change, and that has gone up a little bit to 82. Boston, 83. Baltimore, 83. New York, 88. Toronto, 88. That's what we're looking at right now. there's going to be a lot more variance in this when the season comes. Somebody's going to get over 90, somebody's going to get under 80, and it could be the Tampa Bay Rays. When we did the first episode, I took the under on that 81. And as time has gone on, as spring has gone on, I'm feeling a little bit of optimism. I'm feeling just a little bit of optimism, and I am now taking the over. I'm now taking the over. And one big reason why. Shane McClanahan. He got through a successful and emotional ramp up in spring to a start just recently where he seemed to be firing on mostly all cylinders. The velocity is still a work in progress, but the secondaries look great. The stuff plus grades on the secondaries are excellent. The changeup, the slider, the curveball. We haven't seen quite as many curveballs. It would be so interesting, Will, to get a peek behind the curtain and understand, like, okay, what do we think our working theory is on why he has had this injury? Could it be throwing the curveball? Could it be the velocity? Is it just unluckiness? I don't know, but we haven't seen quite as many curveballs, and we're looking to see some more velocity out of him. But really, just with him especially, that changed my mind a little bit. Seeing that, I'm more confident now that he's going to stay healthy, and that's a big factor into our success. And in that rotation that we'll talk about in a little bit, he's slotted 5th, so he's going to be starting in Milwaukee as opposed to in the potentially cold weather of St. Louis. So that's where I'm sitting. He's a big factor in it. More to get into in this video. Let me toss it to you, Will. We're sitting at 82 wins. You were well over. I think you were sitting 87, 88 in episode 1. Where are you thinking now?
Yeah, I'm still on the over train. I'm actually pushing a little bit more towards maybe like a 91 win season, a little 91 and 71 record. It sounds so crazy to say, right? Everything you look at does have the Rays probably finishing last in the division, right? Because of the overhaul that we went through in this offseason. But there's a couple factors, right? Shane McClanahan, Steven Matz have both looked really, really good in spring. Junior Caminero having his WBC, showing of his own self. Jonathan Aranda looks good. Yandy looks good. Obviously, the lineup gets a little stale as you go down, but Chandler Simpson hit his first home run, right? That has to be a one more in itself for that guy. That's a full win. But yeah, I just see this team, as a team that can probably surprise a lot of guys. There's going to be a lot of matchups that do get played either righty-lefty or defensive placements, how they do it. So, yeah, I kind of see this team, the Rays play their best when they are under the radar. I feel like when the Rays are projected to have these really good seasons is when they usually don't. And I see this as a season where no one expects them to do good. And just like that, the Rays are right in the wild card mix. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I do think that 91 wins puts them in one of those 3 wild card spots.
Yeah, that would be a hell of a season for sure. I mean, this is a classic Rays team. That's the feel that I'm getting. That's part of why I start to get a little bit of more excitement. Also, just getting so close to opening day. There's so much flexibility. We've seen a guy like Ryan Vilade who has made the opening day roster. Now he's out of options, so you're going to have to cut him, and you might as well give him a chance. It's a guy who's been chomping at the bit for a while, and we've seen him become a utility type of player. We've seen him in the infield and the outfield, and the Rays have been giving him a lot of at-bats in spring. He hits the ball hard. We'll see, he's got a little bit more well-rounded profile maybe than a Christopher Morel, but if you can do any better than that, that's the gamble we're trying to take, is that there's going to be upside with him, and if not, then he could be cut, and quickly you have somebody like a Richie Palacios come back up, who did not make the Major League roster. And to me, it just comes down to the options. It just comes down to how baseball is set up. Once you start running out of options, your team starts running out of options. It's a perfectly named term. So we have some more diversity in this lineup. I read a great article here on D-Rays Bay by Ben Whitelaw. Shout out to him. He's one of the guys that's on Twitter and on D-Rays Bay writing a lot of statistical-based reports. And he's talking about, this is something so important for our success this year, is can we improve against left-handed pitching? Because if we were not the worst, we were certainly one of the worst teams against lefties last year. You would have somebody take the mound, a lefty take the mound, and I'm a little bit of a sicko, so even if we're losing, I'll just keep watching. But I was getting ready to turn it off quick and go do something else. So let me point out 2 things. Number 1, Who are some of the best pitchers in the AL? Tarek Skubal. Ever heard of him? Lefty. You think if you make it in the postseason, probably going to be facing Tarek Skubal at some point. Who's the second in that same rotation? Framber Valdez. Lefty. Who's the ace of the Red Sox? Garrett Crochet. Lefty. Mm-hmm. Who is on the Yankees? Max Fried. Ryan Weathers. My guy. I'm missing somebody else here too. Rodon. I mean, there's so many lefties in our division and in the AL that this is critically important, especially as you get into bigger and bigger games. Okay, back to the article real quick, Will. 2025 versus left-handed pitchers. This is all from Ben Whitelaw. In-zone swing versus out-of-zone swing percentage, which is you're subtracting those two metrics. It's a plate discipline swing decision type of stat. 2025 versus lefties, 36.7%. 2026, this is spring training, okay, but it's a good underlying metric, up to 40%. So we're making 4% better swing decisions. Contact rate is up 6%. Average exit velo is about the same at 105, so we're making more contact and hitting it just as hard. And maybe to me, the most important one, line drive plus fly ball percentage is going from 44.6% to 53.8%. So there's some power extra base hit upside there against lefties as well. Valade, who we talked about, is a big part of that. So long story short, the lineup looks more dynamic. It looks like we've got a better chance against lefties. And Will, I'm curious to pick your brain on some of the guys who've made the lineup, haven't made the lineup, and what your thoughts are as we look into 26.
Yeah, so there's some guys that I'm not the biggest fan of. Like, Valade has not convinced me yet, but you know, he does have that versatility, right? He can play the outfield, he can play second base. We saw him play first base in this spring, and you know, he can be a good platoon bat against lefties. And on top of that, I think Johnny DeLuca is someone that I think is really going to have that season we've been waiting for him to have since the Tyler Glasnow trade, right? I think injuries have been such a big part of it, right? In that first season with the Rays, you know, he was injured and then came in and was off to such a hot start and then cooled down. Last year, he had a hot start and then didn't see him again the rest of the season due to injuries. And, you know, you kind of watch him play and he says he's taking a little bit better care of his body. He's somebody that I think the Rays are going to rely on more than I think some other fans realize. His defense is elite defense, right? So, you know, when you have someone like Cedric Mullins or Jake Fraley, who are both lefties and maybe have to get platooned out, he's someone that can step in or need an off day, or even if an injury happens. I've been seeing Johnny DeLuca play a little bit more in left field. Obviously, if you're looking at defensive metrics, you want Johnny DeLuca over someone like Chandler Simpson. And so he's somebody that I'm looking at. And to keep the righty train, right, Ben Williamson has had an amazing, amazing spring training. It was never a question if Ben Williamson was going to make the opening day roster, but I think it was more so what this guy was probably capable of doing. You saw his previous season statistics, and you know they weren't terrible, but it's nothing like eye-popping, right? And then you see him come in this spring and absolutely tearing the cover off the ball, over 1 OPS, over 320, I think, batting average, and you know primarily a third baseman, but he's playing shortstop, he's playing second base, so he's someone that has made the roster that we're definitely going to see a lot more. And then there's a couple cuts that we saw, and some may be surprising, some maybe weren't surprising, right? Obviously, Jacob Melton has a huge swing and miss issue, so you knew he was going to be going down to AAA to work on that. Joe Boyle was someone that was probably on the fence a little bit of you know, can he make the opening day roster? What capacity does he look at? And the Rays do still see him as a starter, which I think is why they sent him down to AAA. That's to be seen. I'm not sure. I feel like Joe Boyle could have, you know, a really good 1 or 2 innings, and then he kind of falls off as he gets later on. And Richie Palacios also not making the opening day roster was a little bit surprising to me. But I think with just so many lefties that they do have, and obviously, like you mentioned, needing to improve against left-handed pitching, he was unfortunately just one of the casualties that ended up on that list.
Yeah. So on Ben Williamson, probably you could say he won spring. McClanahan maybe is the real winner of spring, getting through healthy and ramping up as expected. So maybe he is the real winner of it, but at least offensively, you know, Williamson seems he's going to play a lot for the Tampa Bay Rays. And on that note, a guy with a very similar last name, Williams, Carson, he is now penciled into the opening day roster. He was optioned back to the minors, which you and I have been on this. There's been some people, I might be coming at some people on Twitter a little bit here. There's been way too many people saying that he's making the opening day roster, and I understand where you're coming from, but he was not ready. Like, that's why we have Ben Williamson on the team. That's why Taylor Walls is being signed back. Gavin Lux is playing second base. If he stays healthy, we might be getting Ha-Sung Kim by him right now. But he did play today. I want to come back to Lux in a moment. But so then Walls goes down. Hammy doesn't look like it's anything too crazy, but he's going to miss a month or so, which means that Carson Williams has about 3 weeks of games, let's say, to convince the Tampa Bay Rays that he should be staying up here. And that's going to result in some other moves if he stays up here, because you'd have to find a spot for Walls. So there could be some fallout with that. My opinion is that Carson Williams is not ready, but he could prove all of us wrong. And he did take some steps in the right direction in terms of contact during spring training, which is the tool that is missing for him right now to be a above average major league player. The one thing that's weird to me is I think he's a guy who puts a lot of pressure on himself to succeed, and I understand that. And sometimes, the defense, he's a minor league Gold Glover, and this is the story about him. He's an elite defender. Maybe not quite as good as Taylor Walls, who, as we talked about before, is legitimately one of the greatest of all time, right there behind Andrelton Simmons. And if I forget the exact metric, but he's like insane. So let's say he's 90% of Walls, but he brings power upside. You got to access that power by making enough contact and not striking out 35 or 40% of the time. We need to get that number under 30 and then just keep improving. The positive thing about it, now it's a bit of an opposite approach with him than the Rays and a lot of teams. The Rays especially, are going to take contact first before power many of the times. And Carson's the opposite. He's power first, and can he develop the contact? Contact is not necessarily something that naturally gets better. Like, this is going to require effort, adjustments, learning. Something that does get better is plate discipline. So maybe he'll access some better swing decisions, and that will help him with the power. I digress. He's penciled in for the opening day roster. We're going to get to see Carson Williams for a while, and I'm really interested, Will, in your thoughts about this and what you want to see from him, what you're expecting from him now that he is replacing your favorite player, Taylor Walls.
I know. I'll say it every time just because I think Taylor Walls is the best player on the Rays until he has to swing the baseball bat.
Oh, he's one of the best players in the world until he has to hit.
Exactly. He is so good until he has to actually swing the bat. But he actually hit like 220 last year, and take that for elite defense.
No power, though. There's no power in that.
So my take on Carson Williams is very interesting. I really think he has the tools to be a great player, but there's a couple things that I'm still missing from him, and we talked about it before, you and me, on the pod, and even just our talking and texting back and forth. Is his glove is just, when someone has an elite glove, you don't expect them to be making 12 errors in AAA and then come up to the big leagues and then just a handful of games you have 5 errors. Taylor Walls had more games than him and had 5 errors, and Carson and his shorts didn't have 5 errors. So he needs to play his elite defense. Is the game maybe a little quicker in the pros? Maybe, but you should still be making some pretty routine plays. The other thing is the strikeouts. His strikeout percentage has dropped so much in spring. I feel like he's really not striking out as much as you'd expect him to. Can that continue in a major league environment? It didn't last year, but maybe, from opening day, like you said, he has 3 weeks to show that he can be the shortstop. And Taylor Walls has experience playing second base. So, there is a world where Taylor Walls is no longer our shortstop. I'm not sure if that would happen. Carson has never played outside of shortstop in the Rays org. So it's either shortstop or nothing else for Carson. But I have not seen much power from him this spring. He's getting a lot of hits, but he has no home runs and only, I think, maybe 3 extra base hits in all of the at-bats he's had. And that is a little concerning to me. It makes me think about Curtis Mead a little bit, how he had that really, really good spring training, but it was just a lot of singles that he was getting. There really wasn't too much power behind them. And I'm hoping he hasn't changed his approach or changed his swing and compromised that power just to mitigate some of those strikeouts, because, if we're being honest with Carson Williams, as long as he can play elite defense and hit maybe 10 home runs, that's all he has to do, right? So he's more valuable if he's hitting the ball for extra base hits and out of the park, I think, more than just, hitting 300 with a whole bunch of singles and base hits instead. But I want to see Carson Williams succeed. This is his chance right? You're in the Trop. You're not in some, minor league ballpark. It's opening day. This is your shot at shortstop, and I want to see him seize it. And if he doesn't, Taylor Wall's just going to come right back in and take it.
Yep, he's got an opportunity. He's got to show. He's got to impress on both sides of the ball, because we've seen some shaky defensive plays. And look, it's gonna. I think for all of us out there, we have to remember this is our best prospect. This is our number one prospect. He doesn't have the upside of Connor Griffin, that's for sure. Nobody does right now. Connor Griffin's far and away number one, which is shocking that the Pirates sent him down, in my opinion. But we will. I heard they were trying to get a deal done, and I don't think they've exactly been able to get there. But they offered him over $100 million with 0 MLB service time, and haven't heard any news on that. Pirates might be sneaking in the back of my head a little bit this year, just with us trading Lau over there, and there's, I don't know, them going for it. We'll see. Let me ask you this: if you had to pick a team to have more wins right now, are you taking this Rays team or that Pirates team?
I'm probably taking this Rays team than that Pirates team. I'm really not sold on the Pirates. I know, everyone's talking about them because they made all these moves and they have Paul Skeens, but I'm really not 100% sold in on the Pirates yet.
Yeah. I'm not. But now that Connor Griffin's not playing, that's a big. Like, if he was playing, I'm like, this guy's gonna have like 5 WAR season as a rookie. But he's still showing some concerns. I get it, but like, who else are you gonna play? I don't know. Is it like Nick Gonzalez, or I can't even remember who their shortstop is. But we'll see. They also had Seth by the last. This is not a Pirates pod, but they also had their first rounder from last year, high school starter Seth Hernandez, pitched in, I think it must have been spring breakout, and he was hitting 102. I think he's 19 years old. He was hitting 102.
Yeah,
there was a great reaction clip of Max Clark looking at the radar and going, "Holy shit!" So Pirates over there. So we'll see. I guess we just have to, going back to what I was saying. He's our number one prospect. He's got upside, and I just think I have to tell myself to be patient and let's just see what happens. He's got an opportunity. We've got Taylor Walls, who has got such a good floor because of for certain good defense. So we'll see. So let me run you through what some lineups have kind of been looking like lately. So this is just top to bottom. Yandy Diaz in the 1. Can't argue with that. One of the best on-base guys in the game. Jonathan Aranda in the 2. Can't argue with that. One of the best all-around young hitters in the game. And I don't think that's overstating either. Gavin Lux in the 3, which makes, this is what I was saying before, to come back to Gavin Lux. I don't quite understand this one. To me, I'd rather see Lux in the 1, if we're going to go that way, Yandy in the 2, and then you go Aranda or Caminero in the 3. So, but the way this is laid out and what we've been seeing, Caminero, it's a really interesting question. Do you put Caminero in the 4 hole? And you're going to have a pretty good chance if you go Lux, Yandy, Aranda, 1, 2, 3. I mean, if you just play the odds, there's a very good chance that one of them is getting on base to then give Junior Caminero an at-bat in the first inning. But it's not a guarantee. So do you want him in the 4 hole in that opportunity? Or if they go up 3 down, then you have your best power guy leading off the second. Or do you want to guarantee that Caminero is going to get an at-bat in the first inning no matter what? And you put him 3rd, I would say. Maybe you go 2nd, you go Lux. It's such an interesting lineup construction. I cannot wait to see what we do over the first few weeks with this team, because if you go Diaz, Aranda, Lux, Caminero, that means that hitting behind Caminero is Jake Fraley. He's not terrible, but are you really afraid of Jake Fraley? No, not really. Right. So you just walk. If Caminero leads off in any, you could maybe just walk him. I mean, a leadoff walk might kill you. I don't know. Let me get through this, and I'll pass it to you here. I don't quite understand what we're cooking here right now. So rounding it out, you go Fraley, then you go Mullins, Carson Williams, Chandler Simpson in the 8, and Nick Fortes in the 9. How would you lay this lineup out on a standard day? Not necessarily we could talk righty-lefty as well, but this isn't quite adding up to me, and I'm interested how you would lay this out. Yeah,
it really doesn't make sense to me either. I don't know if it's just spring training, trying stuff out, but I think the issue with having Junior Caminero in the 3 or the 4 slot is, say Yandy or Aranda gets on base, and then Junior comes up, you really have no one protecting Junior afterwards. Like you kind of mentioned, so you have Jake Fraley, who is, if you're facing a righty, maybe, he could do some stuff with the bat, but if it's against a lefty, you're not really sure who's going to be in that spot. So, what does a pitcher have to fear if they just let Junior Caminero get on base. I actually think the best spot for Junior Caminero is batting second and having him kind of sandwiched between Jonathan Aranda and Yandy Diaz, or vice versa, right? Or Yandy and Aranda. That way, right, one of them get on base, and when Junior comes up, if you let Junior get on base, you have to face, one of the next top 3 Rays hitters. I think if he's batting fourth, the Rays or the opposing pitcher has nothing to worry about when they start the inning, and they're like, oh, I'll just let Junior get on base or something, because the next 3 guys, I'm not worried about them doing any damage. So I see, if there's a world where Junior hits second and is sandwiched between those guys, he has a little bit more protection in the lineup rather than, being sandwiched between Gavin Lux and Cedric Mullins or Jake Fraley or Johnny DeLuca. Maybe Ben Williamson could be a pretty good protector of Junior. We'll see, because he's someone we're both high on, right? But
yeah,
in terms of being realistic, right? I think if Junior isn't between Yandy and Aranda, that it does kind of hinder, the Rays lineup and how he's going to perform and how pitchers are actually going to, attack him, right? Because it's kind of like Aaron Judge, before they had Juan Soto, no one was really protecting Aaron Judge, and he would just get on base and get walks. There was nothing to worry about. Once they had Juan Soto, they knew, man, if I got to pitch to Aaron Judge, because if not, then Juan Soto's coming up right after him, and it was, vice versa with that. So, yeah, I think probably the second slot is the best spot for Junior Caminero.
Yep. Yeah, I like second or third for him. I mean, I'll hear you out on fourth. He can't go in the first spot because he doesn't get on base enough yet, but that's where he's got room for improvement. This is what they do with Ohtani, right? Best hitter, they put him in the 1 hole, but he's obviously one of the greatest hitters in the game, so getting him out the way. I would go Lux, Diaz, Caminero, Aranda, or Diaz, Lux, Caminero, and you put Aranda behind him, so that there's somebody that you have to at least think about that's going to put up a good at-bat. So we'll see. And then you could also argue to put Chandler Simpson in the 1. I don't think you can do that until he's showing an on-base percentage close to Yandy Diaz's level, which is asking for quite a lot. So I think you either put him in the 8 or the 9. They got Fortes. Fortes is going to get the bulk of the starts, even against some righties. But you can throw Fiducia in there, who's had a bad spring. I don't know. I was more confident in Fiducia maybe in the off season than I am now. I'm a little worried about it, but I think Fortes is fine. The catching is it's always an issue for us. And so Ben Williamson's going to play a bunch, and then when you get lefties coming in, you get DeLuca and Valade either going to the outfield or replacing Lux potentially at second base, or Williamson comes into place, replace Lux. So your everyday players are Yandy Diaz, Jonathan Aranda, Junior Caminero, maybe Cedric Mullins, maybe Carson Williams, Chandler Simpson, potentially. He's more platoon neutral. So it just gets weird. At a certain point, it gets weird. I don't think it's bad necessarily, but it just does get weird.
Yeah, it's strange when you look at it, especially I feel like the last couple of years have been very consistent with the Rays, right? Josh Lowe was in right field for a couple of years, right? Brandon Lau was at second base for a couple of years. Yandy, before he moved to DH, was at first base for a couple of years. And, we've had Taylor Walls at shortstop for the last couple. So there's been a lot of consistency. So it does feel strange of the uncertainty of who's going to go in which spot, how are they going to perform. I mean, the outfield is filled with lefties, right? And the infield's full of righties. So, how are they going to work between, lefty righty, who is going to play every day? I think be surprised about how much maybe like Johnny DeLuca maybe get some playing time in the outfield over someone like Chandler Simpson, who I agree probably can't hit in the 1 slot. I think Chandler Simpson's actually better in the 9th hole because if he could get on base, right, steal, and then you have the top of the lineup that just needs a base hit to get him in. So it is I feel like it hasn't really shaped up as how we expected it in spring training of getting an idea of who is going to be the everyday players. And I really think probably in the first month of the season, we still won't have a clear idea about who is, our strongest 9 every single day.
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure is Kevin Cash and the rest of the coaches are going to have some fun trying to figure this out, and I'm sure there's all kinds of metrics. And if Junior Camanero's in the 4, I would believe in the Rays that they have a reason for that. That's going to create the most runs. I might question it in the back of my head, but so that's what we know for sure. So let's get into some rotation and bullpen, and I think we've got some over-unders and some things, some thoughts to get to right after that. So I want to start with the rotation. This is pretty straightforward to me. We got a few things I want to talk about, I would think, but the order of the rotation is Rasmussen, Martinez, Matz, Pepio, McClanahan, which is interesting. There's a couple things I'll just get out in front here to start with. Makes sense putting McClanahan in the 5th spot. He is gonna be on an innings limit, just like Matz is gonna potentially be on an innings limit, probably coming from a reliever back into starting. And then you've got Rasmussen, who got, I think it was 150 innings last year, and if he could do that again, that's great. So now you get Martinez in the 2, which it's not looked good in spring. I know that's not the end all be all, but for all intents and purposes, he's an innings eater as your number 2. Okay, then you get your horse, who's supposed to be your horse. Pepio's in the 4. If there's anybody in this entire rotation that can get to about 170 or 180 innings, it's him. I don't see anybody else really in this rotation getting to that many innings, which is kind of a concern to me. One positive here is you got 2 lefties in the rotation, and they're spread out in such a way that in a 3-game series, you're guaranteed to have at least one lefty starter come through. That's a positive, assuming health here at this point, right? So that's a good thing. You're going to challenge the opposing team in a way that we couldn't last year because we had all right-handed starters. The concerning thing is, where are all these innings coming from? And I'm going to pass it back to you in a second, but I think we've kind of got our answer for the most part. Is a lot of those innings are going to be coming from Ian Seymour and Mason Englert. Those seem to be 2 bulk guys that are going to fill in everything else. So do not be surprised to see a lot of games where McClanahan or Matz gets to 73 pitches through the 4th, and they pitch okay. They give up a couple runs, though, and they're pulled, and then you get 2 to 3 innings from an Englert or an Ian Seymour. Now, that would be lefty-lefty, so maybe, if it was Seymour. Long story short, I don't know where we're going to get all these innings from, so we'll see. Will, what are your thoughts on the Rays' rotation for 2026?
Yeah, I think besides Nick Martinez, I'm happy about the rotation now. Spring training can end and Nick Martinez can come into the season and be lights out, right? Maybe he's working on stuff that they haven't talked about, but he hasn't looked great. I do love Shane in the 5, one because of the pitch and inning limit that he's going to be on, but it is also nice because it still kind of makes Shane and Drew like a 1-2 together, right? After Shane pitches, Drew pitches the next day. And is that always going to line up in a 3-game series? No, but if you want to look at 1-2, you can look at Shane and Drew, right? Shane could easily be starting right behind Drew. It would cause no difference, but I like Shane at the 5. I think it's kind of like a sneaky 5th pitcher when he's actually like the number 2 pitcher on the team. I think they're going to be super strict about the innings limit. I mean, we saw Drew Rasmussen last year. He'd have a great 5 or 6 innings, maybe give up 1 hit, but as soon as he came to that pitch limit, he was pulled. Right, he finished with exactly 100. I think it was 150.1 innings pitched. And that was his limit for the year. And he had an all-star season, which is great, but also they looked at the future, right? So I think when you're looking at who is going to eat those innings, it is going to be a lot of bullpen carousel, right? We'll probably see Ian Seymour come in, pitch 3 innings, get optioned to AAA. Joe Boyle comes up, pitches 3 innings, and it'll be kind of the same thing. Same thing with Mason Englert. I think he has options. If he does, he'll be in that group as well.
He does. He has 1 option.
Okay, so he's close to. He'll only happen in 1 time, but I see them constantly using all the arms that they have in AAA to do it, and I'll see probably more guys than we realize going to be pitching 2 innings. Right, I can see Kevin Kelly pitching 2 innings. Edwin Uceda is pretty comfortable pitching 2 innings. Trying to think so it's not going to be 1 inning and you're done. These guys are probably going to be stretched out to pitch these 2-3 inning times. And Englert and Seymour and probably Boyle as well will be the guys who are pitching at least 3+ innings in relief if needed.
We did see a few younger arms come through in spring training that, if worse comes to worse and we need to accelerate some of these guys up to the show, that's not out of the question, except Brody Hopkins. I would say probably don't want to bring him up just yet. I covered this in the first episode. He is just not ready from a command, consistency, and mechanics standpoint. Maybe the best fastball I've ever seen, but so maybe excluding him. But you got a couple names in there that we could pull from if needed, or you make a trade and so forth. So I'm a little worried about the innings. I know there's a plan, and this is why we've got some guys who can go longer in the bullpen. I would say that looking at this rotation, it's an average to maybe slightly above average starting rotation. It's, if you compare it to, like, let's say, I'm not even going to go to the Dodgers. That's just stupid. But if you look at the Yankees, especially with Garrett Cole coming back, you get Fried, Cole, Ryan Weathers, who looks excellent, Rodon, he's also injured right now, Schlittler. I mean, that's a better rotation than we have. That's just straight up. You look at the Red Sox, they have the number one rotation, I think it's by Fangraphs, between Crochet, Sonny Gray, Brian Bayo. I don't even know all the names over there. Ranger Suarez, thank you. So, I mean, it's a rotation that is good. That's what I'll say. It's good. Can they pitch enough? Can they stay healthy? And after they are done pitching, you go to the bullpen with Uceda out, and of course Manrod, can't forget about him, but he's not going to be till maybe the deadline, or we'll see. But with Uceda out for right now, that, to me, there's three guys in the bullpen between Jax, Clevenger, and Baker who are like certified good bullpen pitchers that I believe in their stuff. I believe in their approach. I know you sometimes question Jax, which fair to question, but I think he showed at the WBC, what he can do, and it's so interesting that the sweeper is so good and the changeup is so good, and then it's like the fastball's kind of like only okay, which is interesting. So you got those three guys. Hunter Biggie has the stuff and the upside to match those guys for sure. And then, in my opinion, Ian Seymour's different because he's a more bulk guy and a pitcher. Right. It could be a starter, but the rest of the guys are kind of just pitchers. Like they're not bad, they're not great, they're good, they're fine. That's kind of how I'm looking at the bullpen. You want to try to bridge to Jax, Clevenger, and Baker as soon as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of see the same way with the bullpen, right? I mean, you say that Jax, Clevenger, Baker are going to be the guys, and Biggie, if he can, be what people think he's going to be or can be with his stuff, right? That's a pretty good back end of the bullpen. But the guys before that are very lackluster. And like you, I'm not including Ian Seymour because in my head, he's still a starter. They just like his stuff so much, and they know they're going to have to bridge some of these innings that he's going to be
a lefty
guy. And he's a lefty, exactly. That's a good part. So, when you're looking at the rest of the bullpen, there is a little bit to be desired. I think it's with every team, but, for all intents and purposes, since we're talking about the Rays, I feel like this is one of those bullpens where when you want to punt the games, it's clear when you want to punt the games. If it's a 2-run game and you're in the 7th inning and you bring in Kevin Kelly, you pretty much said, hey, you guys got this one. We're going to save some guys tonight. You got it, right?
It's triggering. Kevin Kelly triggering me.
I know. So, he's had good stuff before, but he's at the point now when you see him, last year and even this year that, when these guys are coming in that they're not going to perform like
I don't think they're
guys.
Bad. I do kind of agree with you. I don't think they're bad necessarily. Like, they're fine. Engler's a kitchen sink guy. He throws all kinds of stuff. Biggie's got the good stuff. Seymour, I believe in him. That's great. And then you get Sulcer and you end just Gomez. So I don't think they're bad. Steven Wilson's been injured. We'll hopefully see him at some point. He's got a nice fastball. It doesn't have a lot of velocity, but good shape to it. So I think the pen is fine. I really like three of the guys at the top. Uceda when he comes back, and we'll see. Someone is inevitably going to struggle, but I don't see any major concerns. I think we'll be okay. So, all right. I think we've gotten through what your 2026 Tampa Bay Rays are going to look like. It's not 100% finalized just yet, but that is what we are going into battle with. There's a few guys knocking on the door in AAA that we can pull from. I think the depth is in an okay spot. I think the infield could be a concern. So, if all of a sudden Williamson or Williams goes down and Walls is down, I would start to worry a little bit there. So then you might see somebody like Reynel Delgado coming up, or so some of the guys that we saw in spring. So just keep that in mind that if we can have a healthy year, I think this is a team that can sneak into a wild card, and we'll certainly see what happens. So, Will, I think you have cooked up some over-under, some questions to ask me, so I will use all 9 brain cells that I have to try to come to some answers.
Yeah, so I wanted to cook some up for you. Now, I haven't, I got some stats off Baseball Reference, right? So we're not going off of, Pacoda or any of these other super high. And look, it's Baseball Reference, right? It's, you see their projections. Sometimes they're not crazy. So I wanted to start with one that I put together for our bullpen, something that we just talked about. It's a perfect segue into it, right? So we talked that, Uceta, Jax, and Clevengers, who we're going to stick with these 3, even though Uceda's not, going to be ready for opening day. These 3 guys are probably going to be the main closers. You're right. You might see a couple guys get in here and there and get a save, but for the most part, these guys are going to do it. Now, Uceta has 5 career saves. Clevenger has 6 career saves. Jax has 15 career saves, right? Last year, they have a combined 3 saves last year because of Pete Fairbanks coming in for most of the saves, but they had 3 saves between the 3 of them last year. So my question is for you, for Uceta, Jax, and Clevenger combined, over under 30.5 combined saves from the 3 of them.
Say the 3 names again.
Uceta, Jax, and Clevenger.
Over. I'm going over. I think those are the primary options for us, with Jax being my front runner to be the closer the majority of the time. Clevenger, I would pencil him in for 8 to 10 saves if I just had to say it right here for now, because he's the only good high leverage lefty we have. Yes, we have Ian Seymour, but there's going to be a lot of times where Clevenger is deployed earlier than the 9th inning because we've got a run of a couple lefties in a row that we need to take care of. Like, let's say maybe we're facing the Red Sox and you got Robin Anthony, Jarren Duran, and somebody else coming up. That's a time where I could see Clevenger getting the save. I think Baker gets a handful. I don't know if you mentioned Baker, but I think he gets a handful. No. And then when Uceta, I think he gets a handful. And then when Uceta comes back, I think it could be between him and Jax wrestling for the save spot, but that could take a while because Uceda's not going to be out too long. But if Jax is off and running, getting the primary number of saves, then I think he is going to just take that and run. So I guess maybe you didn't ask this, and I might be going too long, but I think Jax is most of the time who you want to pitch in the 9th inning, unless it's a lefty lane for Clevenger. And then I think that Clevenger and Baker are your 2 setup guys until Uceta comes in and throws his hat in the ring.
All right, cool. So let's keep moving. We'll stick with the pitching for right now. I got 2 more of these. So one pitching and then one position player. So you talked about it before when we were talking about the rotation. Your guy, Ryan Pepio, as probably the workhorse for this rotation and where those innings are going to come from. So according to Baseball Reference, he's projected about 159 innings pitched, which I think is kind of low. Again, this is Baseball Reference in terms of the projections, right? So I don't know if it's as analytical as some of the other projection sites and systems.
I'm not sure where they pull from. It's actually a good question.
I'm not entirely sure, but they have him at 159 innings pitched. Last season, he made 31 starts. Kind of an interesting stat. 167 innings pitched, 167 strikeouts. So that's pretty cool. And about 87 pitches per start. So I kind of cooked up a little bit number here. You actually almost said the number. I think you maybe did. So Ryan Pepio, is he going to pitch over or under 185 innings this year?
Oh, God. I'm going to say under. That's a big number. I'm going to say I would put him down for, God, that's such a good number, too. I like where your head's at. I think under, though. The pro is that he's now pitching in the Trop, and outdoor in the heat affects everybody, but it seemed to especially affect him. But no real health concerns right now. Anything could happen. He's had a good, healthy track record. He seems mechanically to be really sound, in good shape. He's 28 years old, kind of entering what I would think is to be a prime for him, and I think we're going to get a good season out of him. But I think he ends up under 185 innings.
All right, yeah, I thought that was a number that was kind of interesting number to pick from, right? Definitely a little bit higher from the 159 from Baseball Reference. So we're going to swing it to one guy. Actually,
Sorry to cut you off. He's not always efficient. That is one of my concerns when it comes to innings, because the walk rate was a little bit high last year, and if he can bring that down, that's where you could maybe get over 185. But he's not always the most efficient guy. If you're going to get to 200 innings, you've got to pitch, either be just insane and strike everybody out in 3 or 4 pitches, or you're like a Framber Valdez and your ground ball rate is record-setting and you can have quick at-bats. Yeah,
that's very true. We'll see how efficient he can be back at the trough this year. And then last guy, someone we actually opened the pod with, our guy Yandy Diaz, right? Longest tenured Ray on the current team. So he's projected, again, from Baseball Reference, to hit 19 home runs this year. He's only hit above 20 or more twice, which is 2023 and 2025. 18 of his 25 were at Steinbrenner. 15 of those 18 were short porch pull sides.
Short porch push sides? Is that a thing?
Oppo. Oppo. Yeah, it was Oppo. Yeah. Short porch push sides, Oppo side. Mm-hmm. So, curious for you, does Yandy Diaz go over or under 20 home runs this year?
Under. I'm putting him down. Let's get 14 or 15 in there from Yandy and just keep getting on base the best you can. I'm going under. He tears the cover off the ball, but he's got such a unique approach with just hitting low laser bullets that I don't see him getting over 20 this year.
Yeah. I was kind of on the under for that one too, but I figured if you did it in 2023, then maybe there's a chance he does it again.
I wouldn't put anything past him, but I think that would be just a little bit too much to ask. You didn't ask for this either, but I can't help it. I'll tell you who I'm taking over 20, Jonathan Aranda. I think if he plays a full season, I've got him at 23 home runs for Aranda.
That's pretty good.
He's an awesome hitter. Like he clearly has multiple clubs in the bag. He can slap it if he needs to, and then when he wants to, when he gets the pitch he wants, just barrel it for a homer. Like he could access more power. That's not how he wants to do things. But I think if you get a full season, let's say 140 games, 135 games, let's say, I think he had 105 last year. He could get over 20. And I know I'm going beyond the scope of our conversation here, but he hit a homer yesterday. And the thing that always shocks me is it's such a just like kind of wristy, armsy, and handsy swing. But he just finds a way to lay the barrel on the ball so accurately, which I'm liking Aranda I'll take Aranda to have more home runs than Yandy Diaz this year. How about that?
I like that too. A little double over under for that one. Awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's I like talking. So if you're gonna set me up, if you're gonna alley, I'm gonna oop. So okay. Go. So that's the 2026 Tampa Bay Rays, who are projected for about 82 wins, and I have us slightly over. I'll say 84-ish, and you've got us much more bullish, pushing 90. A lot of health needs to be right for that, and some young guys will have to pop and have some good seasons. I think Junior Caminero is maybe the one guy we didn't talk too much about in that preview, but you know him, and I just only see upside in so many ways. Going back to the Trop, you maybe lose a couple homers, but the plate discipline's only going to get better. The swing decisions will only get better. He's already a national, international superstar, and I think the defense is we're only going to improve. You can see the desire he has to succeed, and hopefully that desire is in Tampa Bay for a long time.
Yep. Fingers crossed, right? That's all we can ask
for. Exactly. So, barring a last-minute trade or something crazy happening, that's where we're going into 2026 with. And now we need to spend the last few minutes of the episode here looking at state of the race, a few things off the field. Let me start with the stadium, and I actually need to take the glasses off here for this. The bit has to stop a little bit because I've got some research and some articles and whatnot that I went through regarding the stadium. So just to get everybody up to speed and to keep us on the same page of things here, so there's been a lot of there's a coalition between our ownership and the government, the Florida government. They have our full support. They will not support us financially for this stadium, but you could work around that and have them support other elements, other elements like infrastructure, let's say, that you could kind of work around it to where both sides are happy and it fits the way that, that political team wants to represent things. So you can work around that. The projection, the cost came out. So if you've seen the pictures of the stadium, it's got this glass roof that's kind of got these segments, these parts. And I didn't think about this in the moment, and I don't have no background in construction, engineering. That's definitely beyond me. But now that I look back at it and some things I've read, I'm like, well, how are they going to execute on that exactly? Like, how are you going to pull this off in a way that's safe, fits within the budget, and also is weather resistant? Because, we all know what happened with the Trop, which will come to the Trop in just a second. So there's been some stuff with our new stadium where they made it to adjust some of the designs. There's a quote saying that one person said that a chairperson from the Tampa Bay Council said this project was, I think, 20% baked. I don't know. I think that's kind of we're very early in this process here, Tampa Council chairperson, but it seems like we need to adjust some of the way that it's going to look. So I don't know if you got anything on that, Will, but I just wanted to mention that there's some concerns about the roof, the idea that they have, and that they may need to adjust the plans there.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add on that. I saw the same thing about, it seemed like the pricing or budget because of the roof had to be adjusted. I didn't see that quote that this was like a 20% baked idea. But, it is so early on in the process. Obviously, before they even break ground or even move forward, it's all about where's the money come from? Where's the budgeting come from? And Florida wants to keep the Rays in Florida. And I know the commissioner, Rob Manfred, wants to keep them in the Tampa Bay area. I think Ron DeSantis was actually at a spring training game yesterday or 2 days ago. All right. So I think it's not something we're going to see probably even maybe by like the All-Star break of, hey, we're good to go with the stadium. There's so much that goes into it of councils and meetings and submissions and approvals that it could be something that we're going to hear about for a lot of the season, but it probably won't be, if we're being honest, until around maybe August or September with, hey, we're good to go. We got, because they need this by 2029. So it really is a pretty good, all hands on deck kind of thing. But at the same time, it's going to be a little bit of a slow burn process, at least in the beginning.
I think still optimistic. That's where I land. These guys, we talked about this, I think, in the first episode, that these guys seem to be professionals, our owners I'm speaking on. So I'm still optimistic about it all. But we'll see where that lands. They did release a AI kind of walkthrough of the village, which I get it, but, maybe that's how you can save a few dollars, but maybe you pollute the water of a couple family homes in Washington. But it was AI. It was at some point a woman, it walks on water, literally, in the AI video. So
that's what the Rays need.
We could be
this
doing
year, right?
This ownership might be doing amazing things for us, biblical things. So anyway, so we'll keep our ears to the street. We'll keep you all posted on the stadium news. Let's transition to our current stadium, because the Trop is back, baby, with a new roof, all kinds of new seating opportunities, amenities, and I'm so excited. I'll be there for our home opener. But the Trop is back, Will.
Amazing. There was sometimes I actually really liked Steinbrenner. I thought it was cool having fireworks. It was cool having
the intimacy games. Is cool,
right? It was, you went to a whole bunch of games there. I never got to go, but I even saw you on TV one time. But it just feels like home of the Trop, right? The nice 72 degrees inside the Trop, the home field advantage that the Rays get with the Trop, because of the white roof that they do have, and it's just more of a comfortable setting, right? It's their clubhouse, and even for the fans, you're used to Tropicana Field, and I know not everybody does. I love Tropicana Field. I really think it's not the worst ballpark than what people say, especially throughout the years. They've made it, a lot of upgrades to it, right? You have the Hall of Fame. I think it's the Ted Williams Hall of Fame that's up there. You have the touch tank, you have the porch, and then just a whole bunch of other stuff. I know it's going to be a little bit of adjustment for some of these guys that are coming, right? You don't have the same guys that are playing at the Trop, right? So I think what I read is the outfielders were going to go take fly balls tomorrow, and the infielders were going today because they can't do their regular practice on it because it's actually not ready for that yet. So it's still actually not 100% ready to go, but they are starting to take those ground balls, the fly balls, and warming up for it. I'm just excited to be back. Ryan Pepio will have to only wear one jersey a game. That'll be a good feeling, and hopefully, it's better for the pitching staff and just the team all around, right? You have more of the foul zone areas, so if a ball can go, down into the corner or anything like that. So I'm just excited to be back at Tropicana Field this year.
Me too. It's going to be a more comfortable viewing experience, and I'm really interested to see for myself. We've heard some of the different renovations and new seating options. I really am I can't wait to go see it for myself, and I will be, of course, reporting back here on the opener. My takeaways: there's some food images that are coming out. There's statues returning, new turf. It'll be interesting. I can't relitigate the whole lineup again, but like you mentioned, the great point, like. This is a transition for many new faces to be playing outfield on the turf, where it can be a challenge to stay healthy, and we will certainly see when it comes to that. One interesting thing is the old roof is still in existence. It still persists, not on the top of the building, but in a jersey patch, as we have now. I don't know if there's any teams left now, but we were one of the few teams who hadn't secured a sleeve jersey.
Yeah, I think we're the last ones now.
Okay, there we go. So we were the last ones, and it's going to be with WeBull, who we heard a lot about last year. I think they were doing the cheese curds in the third inning, was their activation last year, I'm pretty sure, on the broadcast. Something like that. So, yep, WeBull is going to be our sponsor, and there's going to be part of the roof in the patch. And it's all capitalistic at the end of the day, right? But if you're going to do a sponsorship and you're going to make it unique and thoughtful, I think that was well executed. All right. I appreciate them trying and it just not being Bank of America with no thought behind it on the sleeve. So, hopefully this makes us trillions of dollars and we can go get some more free agents.
Yeah, if we're being honest, it was bound to happen that the Rays were going to get a sponsorship patch. And if we're being honest, you want a sponsorship patch because it's just more money for the stadium, for players, for the team, right? And it does match the jersey. It's not just some, public screen logo that's on the side of, this white and jersey with a blue logo on it, right? So it does match, and it is cool that, they say the roof of the Trop is in every patch. I don't know how legit that is, if I'm being honest, because imagine how many jerseys that they make a year for different players, for road games, right? Something gets sent off, right? So I'll just believe them with a little bit of disbelief. But, I digress.
Yeah, how much? Do we know how much of
is it just like a tiny little speck of it, right? But,
one atom.
In the end, it was bound to happen that the Rays were going to get a sponsorship patch. I think, WeBull is cool. WeBull, I don't know. I think they're a crypto company.
I think it might be financial services of some kind.
Financial services, yeah. I'm not too sure what they do.
Online trading and investing.
Online, yeah. So, the logo is cool. It almost matches a Ray looking a little bit. It's blue. So, I don't know. I'm pretty indifferent of it. Again, it was bound to happen that a sponsorship. We should just be happy a sponsorship wanted to come and put their name with the Rays.
And to your point, it does. If you look quickly at it, it just kind of looks like part of the jersey. So I think they did a good job. It's not like a completely different color. I think there was some thought into this, and I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm cool with it, and hopefully we get a few extra dollar bills with that. Is there anything you want to cover here before we call it a day for the season preview for the Tampa Bay Rays?
Before I close it out, no, I don't.
Okay.
I think unless there's something that we missed that you want to cover, we can. I can close this on out, or
yeah, I think I'm just ready for opening day in St. Louis. So with that, Will, how are you closing today?
We are closing out with almost a full year ago now, March 28th, 2025. The Rays played their first outdoor home opener of the season. So it's a mouthful, right? They played their first opening day of a home opener outdoors. They played at Steinbrenner against the Rockies, And shout out to Cameron Meisner, hit a pinch hit walk-off home run for his second career hit, first career home run. A little shout out to the M&M boys from that month they had in the season of Mangum and Meisner. Obviously, didn't really work out with the Rays for Meisner, and the Rays moved for Mangum, but I want to give a little shout out to him because it's a fun. I could go on opening day, right? Denard Span opening day against the Red Sox. I think it was a bases loaded triple E hit that gave them a win that game. But we'll give a little shout out to Cameron Meisner, right? I don't know how much love he's going to get the rest of his baseball career, so
we may not hear that name again. You may not hear Cameron Meisner again on this podcast ever.
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's like, shout him out.
As far as I know, he's going to be getting some games played for Kansas City this year. So
good for him.
Good luck to him. And that thank you for that. That was a great memory when it looked like we were going to go 162-0 last year.
Yep, I know there was some real belief in Steinbrenner for a good weekend when we swept the Rockies, and then it just went downhill after that.
Then we faced Paul Skeens at some point. Oh yeah, that's how pitching is done.
Yeah.
So we don't know if we're going to go 162-0 this year. We'll have to find that out. It all kicks off this week against St. Louis. Will, thank you. Viewer, listener, thank you for being here. This is episode 3 of The Opener. We'll catch you next time for episode 4.